It's 8 p.m. in Tokyo. Welcome to Newsline. I'm Michio Kijima with the news at this hour. Efforts are being made in fixing the damaged nuclear power plant in northeast Japan. The operator of the Fukushima Daiichi plant has begun moving highly radioactive water from the number 2 reactor to a processing facility.
We commenced the pumping of wastewater from the tunnel of the number 2 reactor at 10:08 a.m.
Removing the contaminated water has been one of the main hurdles in getting the crisis under control. Tokyo Electric Power Company, or TEPCO, assumes that there is more than 67,000 tons of irradiated water in total within the plant compound. It is hampering efforts to restore the plant's cooling systems. The utility calculates that 25,000 tons of water lies accumulated in the basement of the turbine building connected to the number 2 reactor and in the tunnel outside the reactor. And it is feared the water could overflow into the sea. TEPCO plans to transfer about 10,000 tons of water into the processing facility within 26 days. Prior to this, the company has sealed cracks in the walls of the facility and checked drainage hoses. The Nuclear Safety Agency imposes guidelines on TEPCO to ensure the safety of the work.
We have no other choice than to transfer the water. We are starting with moving 10,000 tons. Then we plan to make a system to purify the accumulated water. And then, hopefully, the accumulating water will decrease.
For the first time after the accident at the Fukushima plant, TEPCO has released photos of the inside of the reactor buildings. Remote-controlled robots took the pictures on Sunday and Monday to check the interior of the buildings housing the number 1, number 2, and number 3 reactors. This photo of the first floor of the number 3 reactor building shows a sheet-like object hanging from the ceiling and what appears to be equipment for moving the control rods. TEPCO says it cannot identify whether there are any pools of water on the floor. The bright area at the innermost part of the buildings is an entrance for vehicles to bring in large machinery and materials. The company says the double door of the entrance is supposed to be closed and that it cannot determine when or how it opened. This photo of the first floor of number 1 reactor building shows the remote-controlled robot and what looks like concrete rubble on the floor. The utility says a part of what appears to be a switchboard is also shown in the photo. It says the floor of the number 1 reactor building was dry. And in this picture of the first floor of number 2 reactor building, the robot's camera lenses pointed toward the reactor captured a large diameter vertical pipe. The company says the robot was not able to move further inside as its lens became clouded in high humidity of up to 99%. But it says it found no pools of water on the floor. The Tokyo Electric Power Company has said it will take six to 9 months to bring the nuclear power plant under control. Those who have been facing difficulties in the plant are not only the TEPCO employees, but also construction workers. 2 workers at the plant told NHK about certain conditions at the plant, casting doubts on TEPCO's safety management regime. Satoru Aoyama has this report.
A man in his 30s has been removing debris at the plant since March 14th, 3 days after the quake and tsunami. Hydrogen explosions occurred at the numbers 1, 3, and 4 reactor buildings after the quake. The violent impact knocked out roofs and walls and left mountains of rubble. High levels of radiation have been detected in the wreckage. It was the man's first experience of working at the nuclear power plant.
It was an invisible threat. There was no way of identifying it.
The workers at the plant are being housed in an enhanced quake-resistant building. It's in the front line of recovery work and is designed to absorb major quake impact. Since the March 11 quake, up to 600 workers have been staying here. They sleep in a meeting room, in corridors, and other places. Each is given only one blanket.
I couldn't rest. Far from it. There were about 10 aftershocks. Sometimes breakfast and lunch were the same. 20 crackers, 1.5 liters of bottled water. That's all.
The president of TEPCO referred to safety control measures at the diet session on Monday.
Basically, workers' health and safety are our top priority. We've made sure that work is carried out with that in mind in all places.
But another man in his 50s doesn't feel secure working in the plant. He says TEPCO didn't brief him even once on radiation releases or protective measures.
Heavy machinery operators like us know nothing about radiation. We had no idea how much radiation we would be exposed to or how much of it would stay inside our bodies in the years to come, and what effect that would have.
Every worker should have been given a radiation monitoring device, or dosimeter. But the man says he wasn't given any kind of device while working at the plant in late March.
Each worker was given a dosimeter early on. But as more workers joined, only supervising employees received one, and they told us to evacuate when the readings rose.
TEPCO said that since April 1st, every worker has been provided with a dosimeter. The man says that he was so uncomfortable wearing a protective mask that he almost took it off.
It was too tight. I had trouble breathing after wearing the mask for only 3 hours. I loosened it when my face turned red. But I kept worrying, wondering if I was okay while I was working.
An expert on the work environment warned of serious health hazards unless sufficient protective measures are taken, even in an emergency.
TEPCO needs to educate workers about safety control for radiation and health management. Otherwise, there will be confusion. Evacuated residents will make brief visits to their homes in the future. They also need to be instructed on how to protect themselves from radiation exposure.
The workers at the plant are dedicating themselves to the recovery work. One of the workers says he is determined to carry on with the work, despite anxiety about explosions.
I'm terribly worried. I'm not even sure I'll leave here alive. But still, someone has to do it in a situation like this.
The workers in the plant are now struggling to stabilize the situation to stop a huge release of radioactive substances. Satoru Aoyama, NHK World, Tokyo.
The expert insists that TEPCO needs to take preventive measures against radiation, not only for the workers, but also for the residents in the surrounding areas. Many residents are likely to spend more than 6 months in evacuation centers. TEPCO and the government need to adopt measures that will ensure sufficient safety so that their lives will not be at risk after the return. The governor of Fukushima Prefecture has urged the central government to ensure that safety measures are in place at all nuclear power plants in Japan. Governor Fukui Prefecture is home to 14 nuclear reactors, the most in the country. Governor Issei Nishikawa met with Industry Minister Bandi Kaida on Tuesday to discuss the problems that have plagued the Fukushima Daiichi plant following the March 11th disaster. Nishikawa said the central government should conduct emergency inspections on plant equipment such as cooling systems, and he said the government should set specific safety standards for emergency power sources. Kayeda replied that the government is doing its best to bring the situation at Fukushima under control and that it plans to create exact safety standards. Nishikawa spoke to the media about his concerns.
Concern is being voiced all over the country. I hope the government will work with a strong sense of purpose to take all possible measures so that similar accidents will never take place.